Good evening. Welcome to another. God, you gotta tell me, man. I got the wrong banner up there, man. Let me fix that real
Oh,
quick. Yeah, I got so much stuff. I'm so busy because gotta have the sponsor. Get the sponsor right. Gotta get that right. Welcome to the Houston Roundball Review presents Folks Talking Sports, sponsored by the Saxenian family. Right now, joining me, of course, I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Joining me is James Mueller from the Daily Cougar, sports editor of the Cougar, and Willy Gibson from WHTG Sports. Real quick, fellas, how are you?
Doing well.
doing well.
Mr. Gibson, did you get my message about the credential portal?
I did. I did. I did. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's get right into it. We're going to talk some basketball as we always do here, and also um, Andy Yanez should join us in about 25 minutes or so. So we'll be talking with him as well about U of H basketball facing Tulsa. But I want to get you guys' thoughts on Jim Phillips, right? Will,
Yep.
commissioner
Yep.
of the the ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference, said today that the ACC and the presidents, the athletic directors are unanimous in that they do not want to expand. They don't think the college football playoff right now should go beyond 14, to keep it as is, citing health and safety of the football players, the student assets on that side. Well, I talked to some Clemson players and football players, and they don't want to. There's too many games, so they don't want to expand right now. So let's focus on bigger issues that the NCAA has to deal with, like the reform movement and measures, the NIL, all those thoughts. James, Will, what do you think? Are you surprised, disappointed, shocked? Do you care that it's going to stay a 14 playoff for 3-4 more years?
I'm not shocked. Jim Phillips is the commissioner of the ACC now. Formerly was the athletic director of Northwestern here in the Big Ten. I'm not shocked by his position. I know he says it's unanimous, but it is. I don't doubt that. But the ACC, their only viable option for the time being is Clemson, and Clemson is on their way. They're hitting the downslide. I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't make it this year. Probably won't make it next year. So why would he vote to expand it to expose the ACC's inadequacies as they stand now? So I'm not surprised at all.
James?
Yeah, I sort of was just going to piggyback on what Will said. It doesn't surprise me at all, just given they've had so many conversations all year, oh, we're getting close, whatever. Nothing's ever happened. And so, I mean, this news didn't surprise me. And I think that's a good point. I mean, right now, in just the 8-9 years we've had the 14 playoff, I mean, we've seen a massive gap between, the top two teams and the rest of the field. Most of the semifinals are blowouts. So why does, like Will said, if Wake Forest or someone from this year sneaks in there and then loses by 30 and whatever, it's not a good look for that conference. I would personally would love to see the playoffs expanded at some point, but I think it's a long way. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I don't think they're anywhere close at that point.
Let me play advocate. Because it's going to happen after this current agreement expires. I think the crutch that everybody is leaning on is currently, because of the contracts that exist right now, it has to be unanimous. All 11, what is it, Will? Presidents, conferences, whatever.
11 presidents and chancellors of universities.
Thank you. It has to be unanimous. Once this current deal ends, unanimity, it doesn't have to be unanimous, like that. So that's what they're waiting on. ESPN, and I think it's money also involved. They can say, you guys gave good reasons and rationale for no expansion right now. But many of the presidents, chancellors, athletic directors, would like it to get to the open market. They don't want it just to be on ESPN. They want Fox, CBS, ESPN, Amazon, whoever else to get in there to boost up the money, to make the pie bigger so they can get a bigger pie to slice up. That's what they want. They are not saying that because they are supposed to be institutions of higher learning. And so right now they're saying all these things about player safety, reform, needing to reform the NCAA, doing a better job of codifying the NIL and all those things. But this is money driven. They don't want ESPN to have everything in the 12-team playoff. Because once this new deal expires, and it doesn't have to be unanimous, and let's just say Big Ten, SEC, because you know the SEC doesn't care. They're like 14, 18, 12. We'll get 2, 3, 4 teams in. If it's a 12-team playoff, we'll get 4 teams in, if not more. Whatever, they're not concerned. Commissioner Sankey's like, whatever. Y'all want to keep it at 4? We'll get 2 teams in next year. Fine. Okay. But what if SEC says in 2 years, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, and then the other group of 5, because I think the group of 5 conferences also are included in these discussions, right?
They're in the room.
Yeah, you got to get 11 involved, representatives.
Yeah.
So if you get 6, SEC, Big 10, Big 12, Mountain West, the American, and conferences say, whatever, get 6. You don't need the other 5 to come along. We just say, okay, we're going to the 12-team playoff. We got enough votes because we don't need all 11 of y'all anymore. Okay. And they do that in 2 or 3 years. For the 2026 start of new contract negotiations. Mm-hmm. So they say, okay, this is what's going to happen in 2026. I wonder then if the ACC, Mr. Phillips, will have a change of heart and say, wow, I guess we don't have much leg to stand on anymore. Also, okay, so maybe we should, change our tune. And okay, I'm good with 12 then. Do you think that is a possibility? And they work backwards. They agree on a 12 team going forward and announced it for 2026. But then they'll say, well, since it doesn't have to be unanimous, let's go work backwards and see if we can get more money starting in 2024. How about that?
I mean, I think it's plausible. I mean, as long as they're getting the money they want, if they can get it sooner than later, why not get the money then? But like you said, it's about the money. They're going to find the right deal, try to maximize that. But if the right offer comes up and, it doesn't have to be unanimous anymore, then they're going to grab at it, and I don't blame them.
Well, what do you say? Do you think that's plausible?
It is. I was just looking at the 11 members of the presidents and chancellors. Interesting group. But yeah, I think definitely it's plausible. Absolutely.
Because do y'all agree, or do you even think that college football is hurt or will be hurt by continued SEC dominance in a 14 format of Alabama and Georgia, LSU, or, if it's another SEC championship matchup next year and the year after, do you think that'll be hurt in the future and hurt by ratings or whatever, interest?
I don't think it'll be hurt necessarily by SEC dominance. I think what James brought up earlier is the lack of competition in the semis. I mean, you had semis games where teams were winning by 30 points. This year is a little closer. It's only 23, 24. Closer. But I think those games, regardless of who the conference or who the teams are, those boring blowouts and semifinals is what's going to cause the interest to wane. But SEC, and for me, and I just had this conversation yesterday with someone, it's interesting to me when we talk about SEC dominance. We always talk about Georgia, LSU, Alabama, Florida sometimes. But the SEC is, correct me if I'm wrong, is Vanderbilt in the SEC?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Is Missouri in the SEC?
Oh, yes.
Is Kentucky in the SEC?
Yes. Oh, it's
Mississippi
very
State?
top heavy. Very top heavy.
Okay. That's all. And that was the conversation. Like, listen, we always talk about Alabama, Georgia, and LSU, Florida. Great, that's fine. But I liken it to people talk about Jordan's 6 rings, but they forget that he played 9 other seasons. It's like we can't just talk about the good and not bring in the not so good.
Okay. Well, and regarding the semifinals, this is for both of you. Why doesn't the committee? Because it's strange how it works out for the possibility of having an all SEC final. Why not have the 2 SEC teams face each other in the semifinal? They don't want to do that, do they?
I mean,
no.
Yeah, they don't want to see the same. No one wanted to see Georgia, Alabama 2 weeks in a row, but also by avoiding that, you're also trying to ensure that the championship game is as competitive as possible. Because if you have 2 SEC teams, we've seen the SEC dominate it. So if they play in the semifinal, yeah, you're going to get a great semifinal game probably, but then the championship's going to be boring.
But James, you guys are killing the Cinderella story possibilities of college football, which I equate it to because it's interesting to me how some of these same fans and even media love the Cinderella stories, the upset possibilities in college basketball, March Madness. Love it. Love for it, expect it, want to see it. It's basically the first 2-3 days of the tournament. Because typically, the Sweet 16 is majority of teams in the Sweet 16 are the power schools. Majority, you know. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to college football, Division I, well, I don't really want to see a Cinderella story. I don't want to see Boise State get far. I don't want to see Cincinnati get there. I don't want to see all. Okay, then how is it going to change? Because James is right. But if the committee has 2 SEC teams square off in a semifinal, well, damn it. If that happens and you don't have one in a championship game and it's a blowout, then at some point, the other teams in the country got to get better. Right? Yep. I mean, because we can't just keep relying or depending on the SEC at some point. Well, and Will's right, back Will, at this point. The top tier of the SEC coming back down to earth for everybody else. It's up to other teams across the country. Ohio State, Will, Michigan, all the other teams, Oregon, everybody else, USC, to get better.
Mm-hmm. To that point, and that's the argument for why did more than 4. Ohio State was 6th. So you're telling me that Ohio State team couldn't have caused made noise in a 12-team or 8-team playoff? But no, they won it 4. Again, I've always said this. How are you telling me, and we always talk about Power 5 conference, but yet we have 4 slots in the college football playoff. They want chaos and controversy. They thrive on it. So 8, 12, they want this controversy. If not, you never would have had 4 spots for a Power 5 conference.
James, what do you say about that? It was designed for chaos.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get all these debate shows, of course. Like, that's the big thing. The college football playoff selection show every Tuesday, no one's going to tune in because top 12 make it. Okay, but 4, there's arguments all the way around. So, I mean, it increases viewership. It's designed for chaos, like Will said.
Which is a problem as well because the show, the weekly show that starts around, what is it, late October?
Yeah, late October, early November.
Is it necessary? You don't need to see it every week. You don't. A TV show. They could put it on Twitter, like it's done for bracketology in college basketball. You want to put it out there, do an update every, once a week, twice a week. Okay. You don't need to have this stuff go an hour and a half to announce the top 4, well, 25 teams really, and then but people don't care about the top 4. Who cares? And the ratings, I think, started to decline this year because of that. Because no one's going to watch this stuff every week. You don't care who's in the top 4 in week 1, because I think more times than not, who's in the top 4 in week 1, at least 2 or 3 of those teams, at least 2 of those teams aren't in the top 4 in the final week.
Yep. Only one that counts is the last one. So all this other, it's a made-for-TV event. It's perfect. That's what you said. It's a made-for-TV event.
So at what point, and I mean, it's an ESPN made-for-TV event, so ESPN isn't going to squash it, even though they probably should, because they don't do it for any other sport. You know, and I'm a basketball guy. Y'all know that. Fans tuning in know that as well. They don't do this, a look at the 64, field of 68 every week for college basketball. You know, they do 1 or 2. They have like a look in the first Saturday in February of it, as if the tournament were held today, kind of thing, the top 16 seeds kind of thing. And then they may do 1 more, or maybe 1 January, 1 February. That's it. Not every week. Let's look at, it's what, an hour show? Let's see who comes in at number 25. For what? Team 25 doesn't have a chance in hell, for the most part, of leaping up to be in the top 4. But every week, let's see who's number 25. Let's go 24. And then 23, 22, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Every week they do that. That's a waste of time, but it's made for TV. Advertisers, they think people want to see it, so they still do it. So that's on the fans as well. Stop watching this trash. You want to put out the first one, and then put out the last one. And that's it. You don't need to do this every week, because you know what? If you don't do it every week, you do it just twice, first and last, I bet you have more interest in the last one, because then you don't know what the committee's thinking every week. Then you got to guess and see. Then you have I'm showing my age here, Will, the shade tree mechanics kind of projecting who's going to be the 4, rather than seeing it each week on TV, because then you got to, well, maybe it is going to be Alabama, but who's going to be the second team? Who's going to be the third team? Then the fourth team? You don't have to see that every week on TV. But it's college football. You know, Jim Phillips, they can say it's for the health. Well, give me your thoughts on this, about the health of the student athletes. It's too many games. Agree, disagree, think it's a bunch of trash, or what?
Then my follow-up question will be, how many is enough? What's the right number of games? Because we don't know how many games it'll be. Let's say only 2 teams are playing the maximum amount of games.
Right. So for you to just arbitrarily say it's too many games, for who? For what? How many games are too many? It will be my follow-up. So no, I think that's convenient statement that he crafted to fit his agenda, to fit his narrative.
And also, I was going to add on to that, say, you know, it goes to 12 teams, right? And you're the 12th seed and you get bounced out in the first round of the playoffs. Well, you're playing the same amount of games you played before that, because you go to a bowl game. The first round's essentially your bowl game. So you're not playing any extra games. So that just strengthened Will's point, where, you know, most teams aren't going to be adding any games in the top 2 teams, 1 to 2 additional games, maybe play 16 max. And I'm sure with a championship on the line, players will be fine playing, you know, an extra game.
Because we could also look at it like this. With how many is it? 35, 38, 40, 45 bowl games, 30 of them. Who cares? Okay, the majority of those bowl games right now, fans don't care. You know, if they're not mom and dad of the players in those games, fans don't care. Especially on TV, especially in some of these cities that is a distance for their alums to get to. They don't care. Those games mean nothing. You might reduce the number, and I don't have a problem with the top tier players opted for the NFL draft rather than playing in a championship game, risk getting hurt. Like
As
happened
Jameson Williams.
exactly. So, I don't have a problem with that. There's too many bowl games. You got so many folks just adding to them. And the discussion of it changed 5-10 years ago, 6-6, now 5-7 if you have a good APR.
Yep.
Well, 10 years ago, teams were 8-4 and didn't get bowl bid. Okay.
Nope.
James, are you old enough to remember those days when you didn't see teams 6-6 or worse get invited to a bowl?
Yeah, I mean, I was young, but I followed football, and you'd see, 7-8 wins minimum typically.
So it's all watered down, and they're doing that. So why are you doing that for the student athletes? Why are you adding an extra game to a team that's 5-7 and 6-6 if you're worried about their health and their safety? It's all hypocrisy. It's all a game. And too many fans are continuing to play the game. And I realize it's a game to take your money.
Yep.
Because there is a way they could do this, a 12-team playoff, they could do this and still make money. You don't need 40 bowls in football to do. And guys, we all know this. Every level, I think, in college football, except the FBS, has a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
It works for everybody else, but oh no, we can't do it on the FBS level because it will hurt our bowl games. It'll hurt our bowl sponsors. We don't want to do that. It's all about the health and safety of our student athletes, our student assets. We're boo-hoo-hoo.
Nobody's worrying about the Division 2 and 3 student athletes.
Y'all don't care about them. Their health and safety.
Mm-hmm.
They play 3 or 4 extra games.
Yep.
Oh. But yeah, let's don't get me started on all that. Well, yeah, get me started on that stuff. But okay, let's see. Guys, I want to play a clip because we can talk about football all day. But James, did you see it? Or do you have, I want to ask you right now, do you have any more insight on, what's his name? The transfer, Mr. Manjack, the fourth transfer from USC to U of H, the wide receiver?
Yeah,
I love that name.
I don't have any additional info, but I do. I mean, over the past week or so, that Houston's picked up some big time transfers. Joseph Manjack, who you're talking about, he was a 3-star, I believe. He's 6'3", coming in from USC. He's joins the receiver class with a freshman named Matthew Golden, who Dana Holgerson's been really high on, out of Klein Cain High School. And then another guy from Ole Miss, Bryce Johnson's transferring in. So I think you're starting to see things go in the positive direction with some of these guys. Dana's been able to, bring in with this class. There's still a lot of work to be done, but I haven't spoken to anyone with a ton of information on some of these new transfers, but there's definitely some excitement from fans and stuff I've interacted with about the guys.
It's better. And I read a little bit about Joseph Manjack the fourth. Of that name. Well, he's old school, man. He's an old school receiver. No gloves.
Yeah.
Catch the ball with his hands. Okay. He's from the area. And it's kind of strange. He put up great numbers in high school. He was unnoticed by a lot of scouts. High school coach tried to tell schools, y'all need to get my guy. My kid can play 4-year program. And he wasn't one of those, apparently, Will, James, he doesn't run a 4.3 40. Okay. Yet he doesn't get caught. You know what I mean? He's one of those. He catches the ball and he scores. So he's fast enough to get the job done. Well, isn't that what you want in your wide receiver?
Yep.
So a lot of programs passed on him, including schools here in Texas. USC signed him because of a relationship. He did well there in early August, looked good in practice, but for whatever reason, didn't get a lot of touches throughout the season, and he decided to come back home. So I'm kind of curious to see how he does here at U of H. James, who is the young man who transferred wide receiver? Help me out. He transferred here from like a smaller program.
This year?
Yes.
Jake Hurslow?
Yes. He sounds similar. He sounds like a taller, heavier version, more skilled version of Jake. Okay. I want receivers who can catch the ball, who get open all the time, catch the ball, and then they score touchdowns. Great. I don't care if you can run a 4.25, because too many times, James, guys who run 4.25, they just run fly patterns. They don't want to run across the middle. They don't want to get hit. And a few times, they don't catch the ball very well, especially in traffic. Well, hell, I want you. I want guys who I know I throw the ball in his area, he's going to catch it. Make my quarterback look great sometimes, I think he's a under the radar pick for Coach Holgorsen. James, what about the big man from Westfield, defensive, let's say line right now, because we're not sure where he may move around on the line. But what about him?
Yeah,
he always seems to be happy.
Yeah, it's another big pickup. He's 6'4", another 3-star. He's been, I've heard a lot of good things from, people who know him and stuff. And there's a lot of, D linemen at U of H currently. They've been very happy about the pickup on Twitter and stuff, expressing Sack Avenue, which is what they call the defensive line, just got a new member. And I've liked what they've done to the D line. They're losing Logan Hall, who was their best defensive lineman, good pass rusher. So there's a gap there, but they're bringing in guys that can make an impact. And I'm excited to just see sort of how each of these pieces fits in. But I think it's another good pickup for the D line, and Doug Belk, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
it will fit well in the system.
And Will, he's AJ Holmes from Westfield. That's where Ed Oliver played high school ball. AJ does not lack confidence. Okay, Apparently he signed in December, but he did not announce it until this week.
Oh,
okay, so he did it differently. He did not want to have all the pomp and circumstance on signing day. He did it this week. But in one of the clips I saw, he talked about he's very confident. He said, James, I don't know if you saw this. He said U of H fans will be buying his jersey before he's done at U of H. Okay, They're going to know his name, going to buy his jersey. KRT, thank you very much for tuning in. Let's talk Houston Rockets this coming Monday, 8 o'clock or so. But yes, AJ Holmes is confident. He says if an O lineman tries to use strength, he'll use his footwork to get around him. If he tries to use leverage, he'll bull rush him. So he is a confident young man. And okay, we look forward to it. But here is, and I'm going to give his name, 24 Sports recruiting analyst. I'm going to read this. Gabe Brooks says this about AJ, which is kind of interesting. Not to say what James has heard, we're going to see what AJ can do. Average height with close to even length, somewhat frame limited, but stout and wears mass well. Not somebody you want packing on too much weight anyway, but can still add a bit more mass while maintaining functional athleticism. Disruptive frontline playmaker by nature. Love to hear that. The natural fit for the 3 technique in a 4-man front. Relatively low natural center of gravity. Complements at point of attack. Shows stack and shed strength and can relocate one-on-one matchup versus the run or as a rusher. This is what I like, Will. I think you, James, people who follow football, he's active with a high motor. That means you'll need coaches to have to Come on, AJ. Please, AJ. I need you to play harder, AJ. Come on. He's self-motivated.
Whatever his measurables. How big is it?
6'3", I think. Something like that.
Yeah, it's like 6'3",
290 or something.
Yeah, he's a big young man.
Okay.
He had 20 sacks this year in high school, I believe. So,
Yeah.
I mean, he gets after people.
Yeah, he puts in work. He's still developing a move. He has some flashes, but some encouraging nuances in his counters. His technical consistencies can improve, such as hand violence. Love this report. Snap anticipation and pad level. At his best when firing off and staying low, but occasionally will stand up at the snap when engaging. So got to work on his fundamentals. Power 5 caliber defensive line prospect who faces very strong competition in Texas, class 6A level in the Houston area. Summation seemed like a high floor prospect who could develop into a reliable starter at the P5 level. That's the U of H right now player, because they're not yet at the level of getting 4 stars and 5 stars all the time. So I don't care about the stars so much. You want somebody with potential who can get better and get better, be coached up. As an alum right here, Derek says his season ticket investment just gets better and better. We'll hold that thought because I'm gonna tie that comment from Derek and a season ticket investment to gotta pay the bills, fellas. So give me a minute. I'm gonna give y'all a chance to get some water, whatever. I go solo screen. Gonna talk about Will, your favorite topic, U of H football tickets. So here we go with that. All right. This segment, let me do better here. Press the wrong buttons. All right, here we go. This segment is brought to you by Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. Once again, I'm going to do this a few more times this month and next month. Houston Cougars alums and football fans, lock in your seats for 2022 with a season ticket deposit for only $75. Will, only $75. The deposit will be applied toward the final cost of your 2022 season tickets. Fans can email tickets@uh.edu or call 713-GO-COUGS, which is 713-462-6647 during regular business hours. Lock in your seats for the 2022 Houston football season and be part of all the excitement as the Cougs stand ready to compete for another conference championship before heading into the Big 12 conference. Score big with Houston football. Same great seats for every game. Earn priority points. Flexible payment plan options. Exclusive invitations to Houston football events. Priority access to postseason tickets. Priority access to single game tickets and pre-sales for the home games. Special pre-sale ticket offers to special events held at UH Athletics facilities. One more time, lock in your seats for 2022 with a season ticket deposit for only $75 towards football. The deposit to be applied toward the final cost of 2022 season tickets. This segment was brought to you by Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. All right, back to my guys. So Will can go back to only $75 for deposit football tickets. Yes, Will.
Hey, man.
$75. This is not Big Ten football. This is not the Ohio State University football.
No, that's fine. That's good. I would just want to say about the young man. You said in high school he had 20 sacks?
Yeah, 94 tackles, 20 of them sacks. I forget. 48 for a loss. 48 of them were for a loss.
Okay, I would venture to say if they reported 20 sacks, he had 13. Just,
Yeah.
because there's always that uncle keeping the books. Hey, yeah, that's a sack. I'll put it down. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no doubt there. Depends on who the stat keeper is at the games. Although, Will, I'm not saying you're wrong, because you could be very right, but because folks take football down here so religiously, they probably make sure about, well, that's a sack, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I want to see what AJ Holmes can do once he gets here, works out with Coach Bell. James, you know the name of the football strength coach off the top of your head?
Football strength coach. Hang on. I'm trying to think. His name is coming to me. I can't remember. There was Daryl Bauer, I think, was it for a while. I don't know if he's still here. That's the last one I remember. I can look it up real quick if you want.
Okay, I mean, it's, I'm just hoping that he is as effective as Coach Bishop is for men's basketball.
Yeah, so it's still Bauer.
Okay.
But yeah, I hear you. Bishop's done wonders with the team, the basketball team. So, if with the guys they're bringing in, if he can, get them to where they need to be physically, I mean, we could see a lot in football.
And Will, James, I'm may shock the world and let y'all know that with a man Derek right there, D Skills H-Town, I might be making an investment in football tickets. I might put down a deposit. Who knows? I might do that. Doesn't mean I'm going to go to a lot of the games, but I might just support my alma mater football wise. I have been known to contribute something to the alums in basketball, so I might do that. I had football season tickets a few years ago, so I might do that because the investment part of it, Will, is because of the move to the Big 12. I want to get my foot in the door for that.
Absolutely.
So I want to do that. So yeah, I might do that. All right. 7:40. Andy hasn't been able to make it. He's working a real job, in the real world. So if he's able to join us, he'll do so. If not, we can hold it down. Okay. I'm shifting gears here because I want to get your thoughts on this, and then we're going to talk about U of H men's basketball in Tulsa. Got some tidbits for the next sponsored segment. Did y'all see the news, I think yesterday, that Diamond Sports Group, from the subsidiary for Sinclair, announced it signed a deal with the NBA to give its Valley Sports Networks the rights to stream content, including live games, on its soon yet to be announced direct to consumer service in those 16 markets. Did y'all see that?
I did not.
No, because Cleveland is a Valley's market.
Yes, sir. And who was not a Valley sports market? Houston is not. So the 16 home markets under Valley Sports: Atlanta Hawks, Southeast, Valley Sports Southeast; the Hornets, also Southeast; Willis Cavaliers, Valley Sports Ohio; Dallas Mavericks, Valley Sports Southwest; the Pistons, Valley Sports Detroit; the Pacers, Valley Sports Indiana; Clippers, Valley Sports SoCal; Memphis Grizzlies, Valley Sports Southeast; Miami Heat, Valley Sports Florida; the Bucks, Valley Sports Wisconsin; Timberwolves, Valley Sports North; Pelicans, Valley Sports New Orleans; the Thunder, Valley Sports Oklahoma; Orlando Magic, Valley Sports Florida; the Suns, Valley Sports Arizona; and the San Antonio Spurs, Valley Sports Southwest. So I think the plan is to announce the streaming service, streaming platform, the spring of this year. I guess probably if they could get it done, ideally in time for the playoffs, for the teams who haven't made the playoffs. But the price point, and get your thoughts on this, and everybody tuning in as well. I've read it's, I think, around $20 a month. Do you think, would you pay that? Because I still haven't read and understood how this would impact, if at all, League Pass, NBA League Pass. Because, they do have a watch your favorite team option on League Pass for $99, I think, something like that. But do you think, would it be successful for Cavs fans in Ohio, the Ohio area? Would they spend $20 a month to watch their Cavs and be able to stream the games? How's it different? Because I think some Valley Sports, you can do that right now, right? Can't you?
Yep. You can.
So go ahead, because I'm curious about what's different.
Yeah, right. That was gonna be the question. I'm listening to you. I'm like, what's changing from what they're doing now? So, yeah, because I mean, when I'm not like tonight, they play San Antonio. The game just started. When we get off of here, I'll be streaming on Valley Sports. So why pay $20 a month to do what you're already doing? I don't know.
So I guess the two possible scenarios is for the cities, because I know there's one city like Denver, for example, they don't have a satellite cable platform to watch the Nuggets, whatever. So maybe cities like that will be a way for teams to watch their local team, stream the game that way. Perhaps that's one scenario, and then you got to get. I really want about the out of market fans, because if I'm a fan of the Cavs and I live in Houston, can I watch the Cavs on the Valley Sports app and pay $20 a month? Can I do that right now?
You could do it right now.
In Houston.
Yes.
Okay, then
that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So that's why I don't understand it.
So then why do this then? I don't see the point. Because I know in like certain apps and you gotta put in your zip code and they're restricted to certain areas based on where you're from. So if that's not the case, then what is the point of this? Because they're trying to avoid or compensate for the cord cutting, the cord cutters. Okay, so how is this going to help? And then what about League Pass? So I'm kind of curious about all that. James, what are your thoughts? And do you know something that we don't know?
No, I don't really. I mean, this was the first I heard of it, and that was sort of my same question. Like, I'd understand, like, I know for like the Astros, they're on AT&T Sportsnet, and like that app, if you're like outside of Texas, you can't watch, like it uses your location. So that would make sense to me, like if they did something. But what Will's saying with, I could stream the Cavs game on Valley Sports Ohio from Houston, then the money aspect doesn't make that could be just in the comments, someone said maybe it's $20 for all the Valley channels. That could make sense if some of them are restricted. That could be a possibility, and I could see there being a market for that then, because then you said like 15, 16 teams. Then you got options, especially if some of them are limited. But if most of them are like the Cavs, where just use Valley Sports Ohio or whatever, and I can watch from wherever, then I mean, I'm not going to pay $20.
That's a great comment. Maybe it is $20 for all the Valley channels, which then gets me back to one of my initial questions. Then what about NBA League Pass?
Yeah.
Okay, because you can watch that on the apps now. And so how is it going to impact League Pass? Because the NBA wants its money. Sinclair, Diamond Sports Group wants their money. So I'm kind of curious to see how this is all going to play out. But it's just kind of interesting. It was announced yesterday afternoon, evening about that, and that Diamond Sports Group, because one of the regionals, because it's like 21 regional networks, because who was it? Valley had to buy it. Sinclair had to buy it from, who was it, Will, before this? DirecTV or whatever it was, Fox, whatever. And then because of concerns about competition, they had to sell them off. And they thought they got a great deal on the price for the regional sports networks of whatever, $2.9 billion after initial thoughts, 5 years ago, it's like $22 billion, or just some ridiculous amount that is not was actual sale price. But now because of all the cord cutting, they lose money. So I'm kind of curious to see how this will all work if they're able to make money going forward, and how it's going to impact me, because if I don't watch the Pistons going forward and Cade Cunningham, and when they start getting good again, I won't know how it's going to impact my wallet. So I gotta, if it's League Pass or if it's Valley Sports Detroit, whatever, I need to find that out, because honestly, other than the Rockets and the Pistons, I don't watch too much. I'm not going to pay additional. I'll just watch it on TNT and ESPN and keep it moving. But okay, thank you for that input, Derek. Thank you for for that. All right, guys, you take another break because, well, let's play this. Well, let's see how I want to do it. I want to play the clip from Kelvin Sampson, but I also want to talk about the Houston Cougars matchup Saturday evening versus Tulsa on the road. So let me, because there's some tidbits in there I want to say that will kind of help lead into what Coach Sampson says in this clip. So take a break. We're going to do another segment sponsored by Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. And we're looking for more sponsors because we would like to be able to have our own app on Roku so you can watch and stream our shows of Folks Talking Sports. We're in discussions with someone to have our shows on that app, but we would like to have a sponsor help us cover those costs for the year going forward because we do believe that we're doing good work and we want to expand what we do and reach more people. So let me pull it up. Here we go, guys. See if I can do better this time as it goes solo. Okay, this segment is sponsored by Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. The 14-2 overall and 3-0 in the American Athletic Conference Houston Cougars men's hoops team heads to Tulsa, Oklahoma to play the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes Saturday evening at 7 p.m. on ESPN2 with Mike Corey and Robbie Hummel calling the game. With the Cougs win versus Wichita State last Saturday, graduate forward Fabian White competed in his 103rd win of his U of H career, moving into a tie with Galen Robinson for second place in school history. Michael Young is in first place with 109 wins at U of H. Graduate guard Taze Moore needs only 15 points to reach 1,000 in his college career. He's scored 882 points when he was with Cal State Bakersfield and has scored 103 points in 14 games thus far with the Cougs. With Monday's AP release, the Cougs were ranked in the AP poll for the 36th consecutive week, which sets a school record. Tulsa enters Saturday's game with a 6-8 overall record and 0-3 in the American Athletic Conference. The Golden Hurricane are tied for 9th in the latest league standings. Tulsa has posted a 5-4 record in home games. Their most recent game, they lost 69-64 to Temple Wednesday night this week. Against Temple, graduate forward Jariah Horn led Tulsa with 15 points and 7 boards. Freshman guard Anthony Pritchard paced the team with 3 assists. Jariah Horn leads the team with 16.7 points and 7.5 rebounds per game. Sophomore guard Sam Griffin, who Coach Sampson believes is a key for Tulsa to win, is a close second with 16.3 points per game. Anthony Pritchard paces Tulsa with 3.1 assists per game. The Armed Forces Network will distribute the game. AFN broadcast to approximately 500,000 active duty uniformed armed forces personnel from all service branches stationed around the globe at U.S. military installations, U.S. embassies and consulates in 170 plus territories, and sailors aboard 140 plus ships at sea operating outside of U.S. waters. Tidbit here. Houston and Tulsa have each won 29 of the 58 matchups in the series that dates back to 1951. The teams have met at least once every season since 2005-2006, except for the 2013-2014 season, and the teams are tied 13-13 in that stretch. Tulsa holds a 17-9 advantage as a home team and have won 9 of the 12 games played in the Donald W. Reynolds Center. This segment was sponsored by Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. All right, let's get back at it. Talk about it. James, Tulsa's 0-3 playing at home in conference. Cougs 3-0 on the road. Not quite healthy. Do you think Tulsa has a chance to win the game?
I mean, I think every game in conference for the remainder of the season, whoever is opposing Houston, they have a chance just because we don't know where the scoring is going to come from. While Houston is the better team, and even with Tremont Mark and Marcus Sasser out, should be the better team in a lot of these conference matchups. We just don't know what's going to happen. We know they'll play defense. We know, they'll rebound. But other than that, I mean, there could be a night where the shots aren't falling. You're without 30 points a game, basically, with Sasser and Mark. Fabian White, Josh Carlton have stepped up, increased scoring stuff. But, what if they're doubling Josh Carlton all night and you're relying on Ramon Walker or Jamal Shed to hit some shots, and those aren't falling? You just never know. But I think Houston will win this game. But, I'm prepared for anything.
Okay. And Will, I want you to hear this, and I hope it's loud enough. I'm going to play a segment of Coach Kelvin Sampson's media session from January 13th. And he's talking about Tulsa. And some of his thoughts are, teams as U of H is now the top team in the conference. Teams like Tulsa, they may be struggling right now. They get up for U of H. So beating U of H will make their season. So here are comments. And guys, I'm being nice to all of us. It's about a 5-minute clip. So Coach Sampson goes in, because Coach Sampson likes to talk. He's very good at it. So he talks about Tulsa. So here we go. Clip from Coach Kelvin Sampson.
A little bit up and down. I know they've had some serious COVID issues, and that's not easy. I remember when we went to Tulsa last year, we were coming out of COVID. We had no idea who was on the plane that day, and John was saying, "I don't think he can play. I don't think he can play. I don't think he can play." So I know what that's like. I'm not sure that Frank and his team even had to practice this week. I think one of my guys this morning when we had a meeting, we're going over to Tulsa, said they might have practiced Tuesday and then played Wednesday. But that's unfortunately that's what we're all having to deal with the COVID issue. We lost Tajay for 10 days to COVID. And God only knows where we'd be if he hadn't come back. But Horn made an unbelievable decision to come back to from Colorado back to Tulsa. He's having an off-conference type year. The Griffin kid is very intriguing. He's put up some great numbers in games this year. He's got a freshman point guard that's really solid. And then, the guys always played well against us is Idowu. I think he had another kid named Igbanu a few years ago that was dynamite. He always played good against us, and Idowu had his best game last night. But, you can't look at a team, and guys that's played understand this. I'm not sure a lot of people do. You can't look at a team, how they play against this team, and project how they're going to play against you. The Tulsa team we saw last night against Temple, that's not the team we're going to see. They're going to play their best game of the year. That's the cross we bear. Programs that have the same success, teams measure themselves against them. We did it when we got here. We measured ourselves against Cincinnati, against Connecticut, Larry Brown with SMU. We wanted to beat those teams because those were the best teams. We were trying to get to where they were. So when we played team A, B, and C, we may be in this position, but all of a sudden Cincinnati comes to town, shoot. I remember beating Cincinnati our second year, and if you'd watched us earlier in the year, you would have never seen that. But, guys get up to play the best teams, man. Look at all the best programs in whatever league. So we know, look at South Florida the first half against us. They came out smoking. They looked like they were on the Amtrak and we were driving a '63 Volkswagen. That thing was just, they were zipping and running by us. And I remember I didn't call timeout. I just took the slowest guy out. I said, who's our slowest guy? Well, that was a debate because we had a bunch of them. So I said, Jamal, why don't you come over and sit down and see if you can't go in the game, play a little bit harder, son. So I think I put Ramon in, and I'd never seen Kyler play point guard. That's the first time I said, he's pretty good. I didn't know he could play point guard. I know he played at Texas Tech, but they run motion. They don't run pick and rolls. We run pick and rolls. So he was pretty good at that. But Tulsa has a good five in Idawu. They've got a really good player in Horn, solid point guard in Pritchard. I think the guy that's a big factor for them is Griffin. They need Griffin to play good. Like I think he had 25 against Memphis at Memphis, and they played 3. But they played great against Memphis, and they're going to play great against us. We're preparing for a hard, tough game, and it's a road game. That in itself makes it difficult, more difficult. But at the same time, Tulsa's got a good coach, they've got a good system. We've lost 2 straight games there, both at the buzzer. And they play good. A lot of coaches bemoan the fact that, we played poorly. Hey, they beat us. Tulsa outplayed us. That's why we lost. That happens. So I congratulated Frank after the game, and we moved on to the next one. And we just got to playing Wichita State, and that's what we're going to do. We just move on to the next one. That just happens to be Tulsa on the road. Gives our kids a chance. I think the biggest benefit of this week for us is I don't know how much better we got this week. I don't know. I don't see the 5-on-5. You can't see whether we're getting better. That's the most frustrating thing. But I do know we're healthier, and that's as my assistants keep telling me, that's what's most important right now for us. Is we're not getting better in practice, but we are getting healthier because we can't play 5-on-5 live.
And there we go. I mean, they're banged up still. Fabian White hasn't practiced because of his, James sprained left ankle.
Yeah, I think it's his left ankle.
Kyler Edwards isn't practicing because of his sprained right ankle, I think. So they're not, they can't go 5-on-5 in practice. Just, maybe 4-on-4 if they're lucky. So, Will, based on what you heard, based on it being a road game for U of H, Tulsa being 0-3, what are your thoughts? It's at home. Tulsa going to be hyped up to play U of H. Top, James ranked 11th in the country in the polls.
11, yeah.
What do you think, Will? Is it a trap?
I think Kelvin Sampson went to the Lou Holtz School of Coaching press conferences because he gave so much credit to Tulsa and then said, well, they haven't practiced this week. Well, yeah, they practiced Tuesday and they played Wednesday. And that's not the team we're going to see on Saturday. Man, they're going to beat the brakes off of Tulsa. Stop it. Stop it.
I don't know. You make sense. I mean, and Coach, he's great at what he does, talking to the media. Okay? There's just something about tomorrow. I'll just say that I don't share your confidence that U of H is going to win first and definitely not beat Tulsa by a lot. Injuries part of it. One thing is Tulsa's going to win at some point. They're going to beat somebody at some point, and maybe it's tomorrow. U of H is the better team, as James had stated, and Will. I mean, all of us agree that they're the better team, despite only having 9 guys, a core, not kind of the freshman players, and walk on Ryan Elvin. I don't know, Will. Is this something? I'll say this. Just sum it up. I am not guaranteeing it. I'll just put it
Right.
like that. I'm not going to guarantee it. ESPN2, 7 o'clock Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. Tune in because U of H, this team as is, because of the injuries, they're not going to go, what is it, James, 16-2 in conference play. I still think I'm leaning more toward 12-6, between 12-6 and 14-4 kind of stuff, which means at some point they're going to lose. So I'll say U of H is going to win, and let's leave it at that. I don't know if they're going to cover. I don't know what the line is or anything like that. But, Will,
Yes, sir.
at 3-0, U of H is the last undefeated team in conference in America.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Tulane's 4-1, SMU's 3-1, and I think, what is it, James? Like 5 other teams have at least 2 losses. And then what? Tulsa, Wichita State, and South Florida have 3 losses. So that's where we are. I mean, let's try to get Andy in here. He's pulling up with audio. I want to get his comments on that. And then we're going to wrap it up because I'm trying to get closer to between 60 minutes and 75 minutes for our Folks Talking Sports shows going forward. Guys, while I was uploading, and that's for everybody tuning in as well, we're going to do the shows. The audio of the shows is now available on Spotify and iHeartRadio. One of our shows around when Texas and Oklahoma gave the finger to the Big 12, and we had Joseph Duarte and Sam Kahn on. That show was 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
Wow.
2.5 hours. We were rolling though, man. It was a great 2.5 hours, but it was 2.5 hours. We're not doing that. So let's bring in Andy real quick. Andy.
Hey y'all, how y'all doing? Sorry.
No problem. Just real quick.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on tomorrow's game? Houston, Tulsa.
Houston, Tulsa. Last time I checked, the update on Fabian White was they were going to check how he did after practice, right? Or the practice they were going to get to see how his ankle was doing.
That's not a surprise because he hadn't practiced. As of Thursday, he had not practiced yet this week. So that's not a surprise. I haven't heard anything about update today about his ankle.
Yeah.
Does that matter?
I mean, man, that's just another injury. At some point, if they keep losing bodies, it's going to catch up to them. But I guess with the state of the rest of the American Athletic Conference, you could make the argument that they should still win. Well, it's going to be at Tulsa. You know what? I'm going to say if they don't have Fabian White, I think the injury bug's finally going to catch up to them. So I think that's going to be big. I think if Fabian White wins, Houston should be comfortably favored to win. I'd say probably about 10 or so points. If Fabian White doesn't play, I think they're going to really struggle, especially since Josh Carlton can't. I guess he could play all 40 minutes, but that's at some point that's going to catch up to them. So I think Fabian White and his status is going to be key.
James?
I mean, I mean, obviously, like Andy said, with Fabian White, that's a big thing. The other thing that worries me about Houston, moving forward, I talked about, not knowing where you're going to get your shots from, points from each game, but foul trouble, just, you have 4 guards basically, and then Ryan Elvin, the walk-on, who could step in if they need him. But I mean, 2 of those guys get in foul trouble, you're in trouble. If Fabian White's out and then Josh Carlton gets in foul trouble early, I mean, you got Reggie Chaney and Juwan Roberts coming off the bench, but still, I mean, there's a lot of, you're playing with a really thin margin for error, just because you don't have anyone else that can come in.
Yeah, and real quickly to add to James' point, you got Juwan Roberts and Reggie Chaney, but those 2 individually have been dealing with their own problems. I know Kelvin Sampson said that Reggie Chaney can barely start using both of his hands to catch the ball, and J'Wan Roberts has had a couple of, I think he said it was knee. I can't remember. It was either knee or ankle issues, but I know Roberts has been dealing with issues as well. So it's really an all-around team thing where even Kyler Edwards, he's still dealing with his ankle sprain that he suffered a while back. So it's just up and down the roster.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
It's a mass unit, no question. And if Fabian cannot play versus Tulsa, in all honesty, Tulsa probably should win. Fabian's going to try to play, I'm sure, if he can. But we'll see. And it could be because they play. Houston has Tulsa Saturday, South Florida Tuesday, and then somebody. Right now, this is no shade on these opponents. This is the softest part of the conference schedule for U of H.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they try to get these wins, put them in the bank, and then on paper, the schedule gets tougher as conference play goes to February and March. But as I said, Memphis isn't playing great.
Yeah.
UCF isn't playing great. Surprise team in the conference is Tulane at 4-1. So we'll see, guys. As of the ESPN bracketology today, Houston's in, and UCF is one of the last 4 in. That's it. So it's just 2 teams on the men's side from the American in the tournament as of today. And I think that's pretty consistent everywhere in the bracketology that I've seen. So we're going to wrap it up there. Andy, thank you, man, for chiming in. Oh, and also U of H women play at Temple tomorrow morning. I think, 11 o'clock in the morning? It's a game that U of H has to win because Temple's their net ranking is like 139. U of H cannot afford bad losses, but as we've all said before, U of H has to win the conference tournament, really. They were close to beating UCF on the road this week, had a great comeback in the fourth quarter, and then they made 6 of the first 7 threes, Will, in the fourth quarter, and then missed the last 5 and lost by 3.
Wow.
So, but they got to win the conference championship. Yeah, they caught
up.
They
had like 5 shots on the last 20 seconds of the game. They kept rebounding.
Had a chance, and just kept missing threes. So they lost by 3 after going up by 3, 57-54. They lost 62-59. So it's a tough loss for Coach Huey and the women's team. So we'll see how it all plays out tomorrow. We'll get together. Thanks once again let me pull it up. If you're new to us, be sure to follow us on Twitter at Folks Talk Sports. The show is streaming on Twitter at that account, Folks Talk Sports. It's also streaming on the Houston Roundball Review YouTube channel. Thanks once again to Steve Saxenian and the Saxenian family. But we're also looking for additional sponsors because you want to expand our reach and get on Roku. Get on the Roku TV app so you can watch us there as well. Go around the screen. James, you first. How can folks find you on social media?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at JDM2186 for all UH updates and everything. And then all my work for the Cougar is at thedailycougar.com.
Will, how can folks find you?
You can find me at Will Gibson 7 on Twitter, Instagram, and Will Knowles on Facebook.
And Andy, how can folks find you?
Yeah, they can follow me on Twitter at Yanez_5. I do a little bit of everything from our Slama Jama podcast that Dayan and I do, covering UH athletics, also covering local government news in Pearland and Friendswood for Community Impact newspaper. Be sure to check it out. That's at Yanez_Twitter, at Yanez_5 on Twitter.
And I'm Kris Gardner of the Houston Roundball Review. Twitter is THEHR Review. Let Andy and James know I sent it to Will. Today, the NCAA opened the credential portal for media to apply for Final Four credentials. So I've already done that. Looking forward to that. I had a meeting this morning with members of the Harris County Houston Sports Authority. regarding the 2023 men's Final Four, because it will be in H-Town. That was a good conversation. It was positive. So looking forward to working with them as this year progresses. And, of course, boy, wouldn't it be something if the U of H men's team could play in the Final Four in H-Town next year? That would be something, be a sight to behold. So we'll see if that happens, but deal with this season first. U of H men at Tulsa, 7 p.m. Saturday on ESPN2. Mike Corey and Robbie Hummel. Purdue, right, Will?
Yep.
Mike Corey, Robbie Hummel calling action on ESPN2. U of H at Tulsa. Tune in to watch that. Everyone, thank you very much for watching us on our platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter at Folks Talk Sports. See you next week. Take care.
Bye, y'all.